Hi everyone, today is Wednesday, April 4th, 2018. This is Brian McInerney, the hydrologist with the National Weather Service in Salt Lake City. This is the April version of the Utah Water Outlook, and it's the long, more technical version. So we've got a storm coming up this weekend. And when you look at this, it's going to put down about an inch to maybe 2 inches of water in the northern mountains. Most of the precip is going to come in the form of rainfall, about 11,000 feet. We could get some snow at the tail end of this, but it's nice that it's a little bit of a storm and it's going to put down a lot of moisture. It would be better if we had in the form of snow, but most of the energy is going to go north of us, up into Montana, northern Idaho, Washington, northern Oregon. And that's okay, but it'd be nice if it was a little bit closer to us and we also had it in the form of snow. So when we look at our precip anomaly for March, what we see are the cooler colors are north, the warmer colors are south, and this has been the trait that we've seen all winter long for the most part, even down into areas of Arizona where they get less than 30% snow. When you look at where it fell, where it counts, northern Utah did quite well, but this was due to an atmospheric river event that also came in the form of rainfall to the tune of maybe 2 inches of precip. So it didn't fall as snow. We're going to see this again. If you look at the water year, November had roughly 100% to 150% precipitation in the north, and a great chunk of that came in the form of rain. So we're getting more rain in the early winter and seeing more rain in the latter half of the winter. When you look at October through the end of March, essentially the water year where it counts, what we see is better conditions north, but still by any means are these conditions very good. But we're about 70 to 90% precipitation, and part of that's come in the form of rainfall. And the farther south you go, the worse it gets, until roughly about 30 to 50% in southern Utah. And then if you go to Arizona, they're in less than 30%. In the mountainous areas, it paints a pretty grim picture really for these three state areas in the mountains. So a tough year all around with regard to precipitation. And when you look at temperature for March, things are pretty cool. You know, normal to being a little cooler in the western US. We also saw this during February, and we'll take it. We even started to rebuild the snowpack at 7,000 feet and below for about a 2-week period, and that was a nice sign. We weren't melting it off, but it melted off eventually. But the cooler temperatures, February and March, we'll take it. When you look at January through the end of March, you see the effects of that high pressure that settled in over the western US with warmer, in especially Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico. Utah and the Uintas was warmer. Up in the Barrett was warmer, but about 1 to 3 degrees warmer. And you know, that's not so bad compared to some of the heat we've seen in the last 10 years. And when we shift to snowpack, this is what we see as a result of the temperature and the precip that we've got. Snow water equivalent is on the y-axis, time is on the x. The red line is last year, the blue line is average, green line is where we are this year. And I've averaged all the SNOTEL stations run by the NRCS by basin and then made the graph. The Bear River drainage is doing the best in Utah at 79%. And then you slide down to the Weber. The farther south you go, the worse it gets at 61% of median. And then Six Creeks at 65%. Utah Lake, and you can see we've already rolled over in a lot of these by about a week to 2 weeks early. At 51% for Utah Lake. The Duchesne area rolled over about 2 weeks early. It's at 61%. But you look in the green, the upper green, doing great. Did great last year. 126% of median this year. And that's the bright spot. And then if you look at Lake Powell, you can see it's at 71%. These are a lot of the basins in Colorado and also the green. And when you look at the Sevier, about a week early it rolled over at 54%, and then the Virgin at 58%. Virgin made an attempt to get, a little improved compared to where it was, about mid-February, but still a pretty low year all around for snowpack. So let's take a look at water supply as of April. And we'll look at a couple of stations, 2, maybe 3 per each basin, give you a feel for how it looks. But for the Bear, we'll look at Woodruff Narrows Reservoir inflow and then Stewart Dam. And the Woodruff Narrows Reservoir, if you look in this area right there, that's where the percent of average and the percent of median in the numerical form. And then you can see the graphical form down there. And what you may want to look at as we go farther south is the dotted line, the dash line. That's the minimum flow on the bottom of the graph. Average and median are middle. Average is the solid line, median is the dash line. Average is always bigger, as far as numbers go, just due to the outliers, the bigger years. And then if you look at the top of the graph, that is the max that we've ever experienced. So it gives you a range where you are with the max, the min, average, and median. And the forecasts, this is done by the Colorado Basin River Forecast Center. Each official forecast is January, February, March, April, and then you see the blue line, and that's the model that actually runs, that shows the trends of what's going on. So this is Woodruff Narrows Reservoir. Here's Stewart Dam, and Stewart Dam has just been kind of cruising around at 37% of average, 57% median. Pretty low numbers all around, but the best that we have in Utah, when we look at Oakley and East Canyon and Pine View reservoirs, this is what we see. And we'll start with the headwaters of the Weber near Oakley at 53% average, 54% median. And overall, the forecast declined. East Canyon, 51% average, 53% median. And then inflow to Pine View, 44% average, 51% median. And this forecast is kind of mulled around, a little bit of a decline to start with. Six Creeks at Little Cottonwood, and then over to City Creek. And what we see in Little Cottonwood is 63% average, 69% median, and then we had quite a bump in the forecast, but that since has tailed off a little bit. City Creek, 51% average, 66% median. That forecast has been pretty bang on the whole time. Utah Lake at Woodland on the Provo River headwater areas, and then Spanish Fork River near Castilla. And at Woodland at 61% average, 60% median. And then Castilla at 30% average, 45% median, hovering right around the lowest it's ever seen, back to 2002. And then sliding over to the Duchesne, we'll look at 3 areas: Strawberry Reservoir inflow, Tabiona on the Duchesne River itself, and then Knight's Diversion. And these numbers are also not very good. Strawberry at Soldier Springs at 30% average, 44% median. Duchesne at Tabiona, 59% average, 68% median. And then Knight's Diversion at 62% average, 69% median. Now we'll slide down into the price. We'll look at Schofield and then Joe's Valley Reservoir. And really these two areas are also pretty rough. 44% average, 51% median for Schofield Reservoir. And then Joe's Valley at 43% average, 52% median. And that forecast has pretty much been consistently bad. Consistently low. Shouldn't say bad forecast, it's a low forecast. So moving up into the green, where we see some positive numbers, Green River, Wyoming, and then Flaming Gorge, 124% average, 144% median. And that forecast has been climbing since February, as that high allowed those storms to come up over the top into this area. Just shows you what if that high wasn't around, what would you be seeing right now? Because there was a lot of energy out over the Pacific. It just got shunted north of us. And when you look at Flaming Gorge, 102% average, 120% median. Also, these numbers are quite healthy for a reservoir that's did awesome last year. Cisco on the Colorado, right at the border of Colorado and Utah, and then the actual Lake Powell inflow. Colorado near Cisco, 52% average, 59% median. And then Lake Powell at 43% average, 48% median. And that's a tough number. You always want to see Lake Powell get a little more. So the Sevier drainage will start at Hatch in the headwaters and flow north to Pyote Reservoir. And at Hatch, 39% average, 52% median. And then the Pyote Reservoir near Marysvale, 40% average, 55% median. And we actually were right at the lowest they've ever seen back to 1957 for this point, and made a little bit of a comeback when we saw those cooler temperatures and a little bit more precip last month. And then we hit the area that's the driest at Virgin, Utah, and then at Littlefield, and the headwater at the Virgin area at 45% average, 63% median. Pretty steady forecast. And we're right at the lowest point for Littlefield at 21% average, 36% median. And this record that we're right on, depending on how this shakes out for the forecast, goes all the way back to 1934 for this area. And something to consider is the amount of high pressure weather events are increasing. High pressure weather really doesn't like central and southern Utah because all the storms get shunted north, and we're seeing more of this. As we warm our climate, we're going to see more of these high pressures, which would indicate we're going to see a drying in southern and central Utah, which is really unfortunate. So when you look at the drought category, this is what it shows for March 27, 2018. We have an area of extreme drought in Utah, whereas last year we were drought free for the most part at this point. Most of the state is in that D1, D2 range, but pretty dry conditions throughout Utah. Something to consider though, the reservoirs are at 85% full, and we're going to get close to filling some of these. Some of these are already full. If you look at Deer Creek, that's full, and a lot of the others are around 85% of capacity, usable capacity. At the end of 2012 to 2016, our reservoir storage was roughly 30%. Now we're at 85%. So if you're going to have a bad year, have it following a really good year like we had last year. So there you have it. Some pretty grim news, really. There's my contact info. If I can do anything else for you, if you'd like data illustrated in any different way, if you'd like something I'm missing here, let me know, and I'd be happy to see if I can figure it out for you. Shoot me an email. And until, most likely this is the last one, unless something dramatic happens, we will talk to you again next year. So thanks again. Hope for better things in 2019. Water year. See ya.